Right now, behind closed doors, U.S. policymakers are actively drafting a major, sweeping overhaul of the entire immigration system slated for 2026. These are not finalized laws just yet, but they provide a clear map of exactly where the bureaucracy is heading. The core of this update is a definitive pivot. The U.S. is moving away from broad, accessible entry pathways and building a highly competitive filter. The government is essentially trading general immigration volume for a highly targeted talent acquisition strategy. Because of this shift, you need to look at your current career trajectory and legal status right now and figure out if the new system will view you as an asset or a liability. This chart clarifies the mechanics of the new filter. On the left is the current system's baseline, and on the right is the proposed 2026 reality. The primary focus shifts from general labor eligibility directly toward highly targeted expertise. You might hear promises of faster processing times, but those speeds will be strictly reserved as a privilege for applicants meeting the new elite criteria. This creates a higher barrier to entry. It requires heavy upfront investments in specialized education and absolutely flawless legal paperwork. Simply submitting an application and waiting in a general line is no longer a viable strategy. To see how your specific profile fits this filter, we can plot the data on this scenario match quadrant. The vertical axis measures your likelihood of receiving fast-tracked processing and stabilized long-term residency. The horizontal axis measures the volume of investment required, meaning your education, certifications, and legal preparation. Up here in the top right quadrant is the High Skill Optimizer. This includes professionals in tech, healthcare, and engineering. It represents high reward but high effort. To succeed here, you need advanced degrees or specialized certifications in explicitly targeted STEM fields. The immediate trade-off is competition. Getting a visa means entering a global talent pool where only top-tier qualifications guarantee entry. The primary bridge into that high-skill quadrant is the International Student Pathway. This requires funding higher education at accredited U.S. institutions. In exchange, the proposals offer expanded work opportunities after graduation. The trade-off for students is intense pressure. You have to secure immediate, highly relevant corporate employment post-graduation in a tightening U.S. job market. While tech, medical, and student pathways offer the clearest return, they demand years of specialized study and significant financial capital long before you see a result. In the bottom left quadrant are the applicant demographics facing the highest friction and lowest policy favorability in these proposals. For low-skilled workers, the rules point to stricter visa limits and shrinking overall quotas for general labor. For undocumented immigrants, the proposal involves heightened enforcement policies, intense scrutiny, and increased legal pressure. The trade-off here is stark. Continuing with current strategies yields diminishing returns and a higher risk of removal. Relying on existing low-skill quotas or remaining without finalized legal status is a liability that requires an immediate pivot in strategy. Then we have the millions of general queue waiters. Those have invested years waiting, but lack specialized STEM or medical credentials. The government has stated an intention to clear processing backlogs to help applicants already in the system. This illustrates the catch. Backlog clearing will likely fast-track those who meet the new elite criteria first, essentially moving them ahead of older applications. The risk for general applicants is being perpetually pushed down the list by the new competitive criteria, despite having an earlier application date. Passive patience is no longer a viable strategy. Applicants already in the queue must actively update their qualifications to match the new filter. To move from analyzing policy to taking preventative steps, you need to conduct a 2026 readiness audit. First, verify whether your specific industry is explicitly targeted for growth by U.S. policy. Second, ensure that your educational and professional credentials meet internationally recognized competitive standards. Third, confirm that all your legal documentation is flawless to avoid automatic rejection in a more selective queue. If you are an optimized professional or a funded student, the recommendation is clear. Double down on U.S. applications now and actively secure corporate sponsorships. If you fall into the general labor category or have an irregular status, immediately retain specialized legal counsel to explore alternative legal protections. If your profile does not align with these specific U.S. priorities, you should evaluate other global markets where the entry criteria aren't solely focused on elite tech or medical credentials. Countries like Canada or Australia, for example, often maintain pathways for general labor and trades that the 2026 U.S. proposal is actively restricting. The core of the 2026 reform is simple. U.S. immigration will reward specialization while restricting generalized labor. Hope is not a strategy. Navigating these new requirements requires active preparation, higher qualifications, and absolute legal precision, starting today.